Well, good day, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm well. How about yourself?
I am great. I'm so glad to have you on talk about this really important topic. I always wanted to get involved in real estate when I was younger. Never took the plunge. Always regret it. So
It's never late. I can say that.
good. I like to know that. Good. So I love to ask my guests this question to kind of get to know you a little bit better. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Is be patient.
Okay.
Being patient and then just learning to deal with clients and just respecting their time, and eventually it will pay off.
Especially in real estate, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
You don't want to sell too quickly in real estate
Right, right.
sometimes.
Well, it all depends on the time constraints. If it's an auction property, the demand of the property. It's always a lot of different circumstances.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you have to work with the client's time, and you have to be patient.
Right. I'm always curious, people like yourself who've achieved level of success, who are some people in your life who serve to inspire you or maybe even be a mentor for you?
Absolutely. One was my father. He was a CPA as I was growing up. So, seeing him dealing with the clients, and he always, mentioned that his most affluent clients are the ones that are in real estate. They could have been doctors or in any industry, but they always had invested into real estate. And that's what really made the most of their wealth. And it was one economics teacher, UCLA, that really, made a big effect on me. And he always told one sentence that he mentioned, it was, whenever you're buying the real estate, especially if it's for your primary home, if you're looking for, let's say, about a 3,000 square feet home, buy a 3,500 square feet home, 4,000 square feet home. That extra 500, 1,000 is your retirement.
Mm, I like that. Never heard that before.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, because
you are paying extra. You might be a little bit burdened in terms of the payments, but at the end of the day, if you're paying off your home in 30 years, depending on what's the price per square feet for your property at that time, that's your retirement.
yeah, that's great advice. So, kind of share with us your journey from into real estate industry. What motivated you to get started in that, and in resident, then transition to commercial?
Sure. Yes. So I was graduating UCLA in 2002, and I was wondering, what am I going to do next? I had studied economics at UCLA, and about 6 months or about 9 months after that, my father was in refinancing an investment property, and I was there when the loan docs were being signed with the notary and the loan officer, and I just felt that the loan officer was not doing a very good job in terms of customer service and explaining everything. It was just like, here it is, sign it. So that's the first really push. I was like, okay, wait, I can do much better than this. And mortgage deals with numbers, and that's my thing. So that really was I think the transitioning point in my life that really moved me along. So it made me go take my salesperson license in beginning of 2004. I passed it. Then I realized, since I have a bachelor's degree, I can automatically become a broker and don't need to work for 2 years in terms of experience. So in December of 2004, I became a broker, and I worked for another company for about 1 year. Meanwhile, mid 2005, I started my own company. And then 2005, I transitioned to my own company and, doing loans and all the good stuff. It was a great time. It was the boom years. We can say in the refinance and the purchase years until, beginning of 2008. 2008, the whole, apocalypse, we can say, happened. You know, Banks didn't have money. People didn't have money. Banks such as Lehman Brothers, who was in business for over 100 years, went belly up. Very scary times. So literally, there's not that many people buying homes nationwide. Majority of people were losing their homes.
Right.
And in order to survive in that, you know, turmoil, number one, 70% of my competition went out of the industry.
Mm.
They just couldn't, there was no business to be made. The other one, how I transitioned myself is I started doing loan modifications for my clients, and people just came to me. I saved their homes. I probably saved over 2,500 homes, roofs, people's lives. Did loan modifications, saved them their home, got reduced payments. And meanwhile, doing this, I was, introduced to a higher echelon clients who had like the $4 or $5 million loan amounts, and I was able to help them. There were some were behind 6 months in payments, some were behind 2 years in payments. And I was able to, do loan modification, defer all the past due payments. There's a balloon in the back of the loan. And, they're very happy. I mean, they did have equity, but they're like, what do we do? So, while doing this, they're like, we have other commercial properties. If you start transitioning to commercial, we will work with you as a commercial loan. And so that was at that point, I was like, I started thinking, I was like, what? I've always liked to do commercial, and this is a good pivot point to transition. And so that's what led me to move on to commercial. I learned it more. And, as the economy started slowly getting better, they gave me deals and I was able to perform for them.
That's
And that was
amazing.
probably around, 2012, 2013. And here we are today. I mainly do commercial loans. I still do residential loans for my existing clients. If they come to me, obviously, I'm not going to give up the business. And on a very small case basis, if my clients want me to represent them, I will represent them on a purchase.
So people are kind of sensing that what happened in 2008, that maybe we're on the cusp of another 2008 housing crash right now. For someone who's working in the industry, what is your feel for the real estate market today?
The real estate market is a very unique market today. We are in a stagnant inflation. Rates have gone up. Prime is at all-time highs. But, because of COVID and the amount of money that was saved during the 2 years of, let's say, the COVID years, people had a lot of extra savings. So they were able to use those savings to be able to, go through this high inflation period. Today's market is very unique, yet we have come up at a point where there is not that many buyers. The days on markets for properties are a lot higher than before. Do I personally think that we're going to have a 2008 scenario? I don't. At that point, one of the bigger issues are the banks didn't have money, right? But today, banks have a lot of money. They have more money than they can lend out, I would say, from what I see.
Okay.
And on the other side, there's a certain echelon of people that, even during the COVID and after COVID years have really acquired a lot of money and are sitting on a lot of money. Yes, the middle class is hurting right now. The COVID year, savings have gone away. A lot of inflation in cost of goods, household goods, and just surviving, on a daily basis. But it's going to really depend on how from here on forward, how they go about the economy. How are they going to help the average person? And how much money are they going to put back into the economy? Obviously, we don't want, again, a lot of money being printed to create the inflation that we got from COVID. That's obviously going to hurt in the long term.
Right.
But there's got to be some resolution to come about. I don't think it's going to be as a hard hit as a 2008 that we had, but something might happen if they don't take the right actions.
Right. So tell us about your company and what your company focuses on. You kind of touched on it a little bit.
Sure. So my company, my niche personally is commercial loans, either being on SBA side, CMBS, industrial, any type of financing, either conventional. We also, as I said, do residential because of my past, and then I personally represent some buyers if they ask me to. They want me to represent them on the buy side of the brokerage, and then I also help them on the loan. But we're primarily more loan based, helping people get the loan based on their financials. Every family's financials are different, and based on that and reviewing tax returns, I can say what kind of loan is possible for that particular individual. And so we're very in concierge that we hold our clients' hands from A to Z. And not only when the transaction ends, we're still there for them. If it's 3 years later, it's 5 years later, they need one particular document or they have questions, they can always reach out to us.
I love that. So you're known for exceptional customer service. How did you foster that in your company?
Growing up, I go into different businesses, different restaurants, different, atmospheres and environments. I always looked at see why is one business more successful than another. And the key ingredient was customer service. So I always told myself, if you want to be successful later on in life as growing up, you have to, number one, provide amazing customer service. Number two, keep your word and be honest. If you say something, do it. Don't just say something to get the business and not perform. And so, I've learned this growing up, and then at the age of 16, I also started tutoring for, in math, physics, and chemistry. So even in that area, I was doing private tutoring after school on weekends. And so that also, that customer service in that business allowed me to get a lot more clients and being honest in terms of time and what can be done for the clients. It just always got embedded into me more every year. And it's always stayed with me.
I love that. I'm curious. I love leadership. I'm curious, how do you, with inside of your team, how do you foster an environment in your agents and your loan officers where you work together collaboratively well?
Right. So we always, I like to, when people come in or they have a new person works in or people that work here, we work as a team. I tell them, come into the office, ask questions. If you need any help, if a client calls, you don't know how to answer it, put me on the phone with them. I'll guide you. I'll put you on there. Sometimes I put them through strict tests. I just want to see how their reactions are, because sometimes you have certain attitudes and not everybody is able to deal with all attitudes. So I tell them, again, be patient. If even a client has a bad day, is yelling at you or anything, you just have to be patient, not respond, let them finish, and just, answer very calmly. Because with you answering calmly, it will bring their anger lower. So it's basically, just being able to deal with people is the number one thing. And as a team, obviously, they have, bills and everything to pay. So I tell them, in the beginning, don't count this as your major work to pay for your bills and your home. It's going to take time. If you have another job, do not give that up. And so when you come here, you can work at nights and weekends. I'm always here. I'm available 24/7. Anything you need. If you have a client, all of a sudden you're meeting, go ahead and call me with them. I'll conference call you. I'll guide you.
Right. That's so cool. I'm
So,
curious, in your hiring, how do you work your HR process to make sure you get the right people? Because what you're doing is a very unique process, a unique company. How do you make sure you find the right people for your company?
it's all about attitude, personality. So I bring them on, after the first interview, because we're in an environment where they're independent contractors, there's no hourly wages, right? So I've learned to deal with all different personalities. But if I see that that person doesn't fit into the team or just is not getting along with other team members, I tell them, this is the issue. And if you really want, we're here, it's like a family, we want to be concierge. If a client comes in and you're sitting down, I want you to say hi to a client, even though it's somebody else's client, you got to make everybody feel welcome. So I tell them, you might want to go and work in a bigger environment or not, but you want to always grow your team, but you want to have a positive energy team.
Right. So real estate has changed a lot since I was think about dabbling in 30 years ago. Just the way houses and properties are marketed, are pushed. What innovative practices have you kind of in your company, in your realm, created, or technologies that you're using to really enhance the overall experience for your customers and your clients?
In terms of technology, obviously we have, you have the realtor.coms and Zillows where anybody has access to all the listings that they don't even need a realtor up front. They can see what's out in the market and everything. In terms of, communication is the key to get a client up front and keep in touch with them, and the weekly hits, sending them email once a week or calling them. So our main communication is really telephone calls and emails, and making sure that you're still in the business. They know if you're there for them, if they have any questions. And that's what will get you the clients, and that's what will get you the referrals. There's all these different systems that different agents, especially beginners, use. It could be KV Core and any of these. Those are great. Don't get me wrong for somebody in the industry, but at the end of the day, what brings the clients and what keeps you the client is the communication, either
Right.
email or telephone.
Yeah. So
And we are in a
it's
transition.
still hands on then.
It's a hands-on business, and we're in a
Right.
transition. You have the old timers who like to hear your voice every week, and you have the new generation that only likes to text and email.
Right.
So you have to adapt.
I'm curious, as you're working with the new workforce, the new Gen Zs who just kind of getting into workplace, I've heard that that group needs a lot more support, a lot more encouragement from the bosses. So how do you work with younger agents who are just coming into the business from this workforce?
It all depends how motivated they are. Do they have rich parents where they're just trying to get a real estate entry? They want to come in at any hour, leave at any hour, or are they really in it to make a life out of it? It all depends on their personalities. Again, because they don't have any hourly wages, I let them basically say, I'll be here when you want, but it's up to you to really put in the time and effort to be successful.
Right.
I work with their personality.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've heard some people, business owners, who are like, this is a more challenging generation because of the need to be affirmed on a regular basis.
That is, but that's only if they're getting it, if they work for you on a W-2 basis.
Right. So
But when they're
because you're
1099, it's at their own discretion what they want to do.
Right. That's interesting. So tell us about the LA commercial market. I don't know the LA market well, but tell us what that landscape looks like.
LA commercial market is very affluent. We've had a couple buildings have gone belly up. They've sold for less than 50% of the values that it was valued at, let's say 8 to 10 years ago. Turn more mainly office buildings. But LA is a city that everybody wants to live in because of the weather and the ambiance and everything. So definitely, we do still have like a housing shortage here. But on the other side, in the last 4 or 5 years, it has gotten really expensive. In terms of pricing real estate and just on a daily basis living. But again, everybody wants to hear there's a lot of work. Especially I think next year in 2025, where a lot of the companies are mandating everybody going back into the office. So I think it will become a lot more norm. And hopefully the office sector can recover a bit. How much, I don't know. We don't know how many of the companies are going to enforce that. But it's an amazing market. I've been doing this for 20 years now and look forward to doing this 20 years or more.
That's great. If you were advising someone who was like me maybe 30 years ago who just want to get into the real estate market, is there a place you tell them to start or a sector of the real estate market that you would encourage them to get involved in first?
I would encourage them to get involved with the residential real estate first to get their hands wet. And how to get involved, we always have them create a COI sheet, which is a center of influence sheet. They take a piece of paper and they write the top 25 people that they go to for referrals, either being accountants, attorneys, friends, their parents, business partners, their friends, any of those that they can go to and get good referrals from. That's the best way to start.
That's great. Because your business is not based on, 9 to 5 punching a clock, how do you encourage your team to have a healthy work-life balance?
We have to always be available 24/7. But there are times if you're having dinner, don't pick up the phone if somebody calls you and call them, but do call them back in an hour later, text and be like, sorry, I was at dinner. I can go speak now. I can speak in the morning. But again, it all comes down to the communication. To communicate. I'm going on vacation next week. Either you're going to make yourself available when you're on vacation or be like, please contact this person.
Right. That makes sense because that personal contact, especially in your business, is just so critical. So what future goals do you have in mind for your company?
Future goals in mind is just, I honestly have to continue what I'm doing and maybe go into development a bit.
So tell me more about development. What's that look like for you?
A development, depending on how, all this plays out in the next couple of years, I would like to maybe, develop a shopping center or a multifamily or, a smaller office building. That's my ultimate goal, but I will always continue doing loans. I've always enjoyed it. I put a lot of, families into new buildings, especially with SPA, into owner occupied buildings, and they're very happy. They all come back to me. Thank you for doing this. I know I have some that I did, like say 10 years ago, and they have another 10 years until the building is paid off. So it's a great feeling when you get these positive feedbacks from them.
Yeah, I bet that is. And you're part of their life because you helped them in some of those critical times. I want you to think back to those people that you helped during the 2008 housing crisis. If you're a homeowner now and you're trying to make best use of the property that you have, what advice do you have for people to prepare themselves for what comes next in terms of inflation and just the housing market?
Preparedness is always, I recommend having 6 months to 12 months of reserves of your monthly expenses. You have it in an account, you have it somewhere that you don't even think you have it. Just to be prepared for the hard times.
Right.
That would be I would think that's the best. 12 months is the best case scenario. Keeping your expenses as low as possible. Don't take on, expenses that are, you really don't need. Or if you are going to take them on, you have the capacity to pay it off if you go to hard times, so it won't affect your monthly expenses.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I love to ask my guests this question. What legacy do you want to leave?
Legacy that I want to leave is when people look back at me, maybe in 50 years, something, be like, he's the one who got me the best rate and made me an owner of a building.
Love that. That is so cool. So any key takeaways you want to kind of give with the audience about just what you do, thoughts about entrepreneurship that you want to share with the audience?
Thoughts about entrepreneurship. If there's something in your mind you want to do, go get experience in it first and see if you want to spend the rest of your life doing that. There's a lot of individuals out there who are not happy with what they do on a daily basis, which is not fun. You have to enjoy what you do. You have to love what you do, because if you do, it will affect other fields of your life.
Exactly.
And in terms of, what, for clients, it's always a big risk once you own a house or two, buying a commercial property. There's a lot of fear amongst people. But, I'm always here if you want. They can always call me or email me, and I can always tell them, based on their financials, what they qualify for. I can tell them this is what you qualify for, but go do your research. Talk to people. What's the market like? Should I buy? But if you do own a business and you've been, let's say, leasing the last 5 or 10 years, if you have the capacity to buy a building at the right price, which your expenses do not go higher more than, say, 20%, take that next move. It will pay off in the near future.
That's great. Anything I haven't asked you that we should have talked about?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, in terms of real estate, you can't really have fear. You have to just make moves.
Right.
People that made the moves are the ones who are more successful. If you always have this fear, oh, this will happen, I'm not going to buy this or I'm not going to buy that. 4 or 5 years, if you look back, you always tell yourself, why didn't I buy it?
Right. At the time I was going to buy it, right?
Right. Exactly.
So where can people find out more about you? If they have questions, how can they contact you?
Sure, they can always call my office line, 818-703-9337. They can always, go on my website, www.wembleysinc.com. And, I'm always here. If I don't answer, I'll answer back within 2 to 3 hours via email or telephone call.
Are you on LinkedIn as well?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on all the social medias. If they go on my website, they can find all my social media links.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to kind of bless my audience with information and blessings on what you do. And may the market be always on your side there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having me.
That was great.